Are you trying to fix your past but don't want to blame your parents? Hi there, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Saira, the show where I answer your questions about mental health, personal growth, and relationships. Today's question comes from Simerjeet, and I've actually heard this question many times from clients as we're working through counseling together. So hopefully this will be helpful for people who maybe have some of the same worries. So Simerjeet says, I've just started therapy and I'm seeing that how I was raised is a big part of my current problems. I don't want anyone to think badly of my family, but there's some messed up stuff in my past. How do I heal my childhood without blaming my parents? I've just started therapy and I'm seeing that how I was raised is a big part of my current problems. I don't want anyone to think badly of my family, but there's some messed up stuff in my past. How do I heal my childhood without blaming my parents? I love this question. I love this question because in the question, I feel the respect, I feel the honoring that you have for your parents and not wanting to um, discredit their attempts or, throw them under the bus in any way, wanting to honor them, respect them, but still do your work. So how do we do that? I have some ideas around this because this, like I said, this question has come up several times in my work as a therapist, especially from people who live in kind of family-based cultures or collective cultures where there is a very filial, like that filial relationship, that relationship of kind of honor and respect for our elders. So how do you actually do your own work when you also have this other value that you're holding on to and that's really important? So I have three ideas, as usual, in this for this question. So the first is your intention. The second is about how you see them, and finally, I'm going to look at blame versus compassion. So let's start with your intention. So what is your intention in going to therapy, right? For most people, their intention is going to therapy is that they're feeling bad and they want to feel better. That's usually why people come to therapy. Something in their life has happened, or it's been happening for a while. They're feeling bad. They don't know how to get out of it. They've tried other things. They come to therapy. Some people come to therapy because they just know that's really helpful for their mental health and it's kind of a maintenance thing. But many people come to therapy when they're feeling bad and they can't get out of it themselves. So beyond that intention, once, that might be your initial reason for coming to therapy, but once you're in your therapy sessions, you may find that all this other stuff comes up that actually wasn't really even connected to the reason that you thought you were coming for therapy. And so one of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to broaden their intention um, for therapy. So in addition to, I want to feel better, what if part of your intention could be, I want the trauma to stop with me. I don't want to pass this trauma on to other generations in my family. See, now we're looking at not just what's in it for you, but actually how will the whole family benefit from you getting better and you coming up with new ideas and new approaches and new ways to see your life, right? So, and I think that's something that's really missing in Western psychology is that piece around the collective, the community, the social group, the family, that we're part of systems, right? Nobody was born, like nobody grew up in a vacuum. There's other people who have been around since before you were born that have contributed to who you are. So we can't, and though those people may have made mistakes, they may have, actually done some really in some cases some terrible things. We can't just like evacuate them from our memories. Like they're there, those things happened. So what I would say again is going back to your intention. Could my intention be broader and actually be about helping the family, that as I get better, I actually am a more healed presence, and I can be that grounded anchor in my family. I'm not going to spin in the drama with them anymore, right? So that would be a way I think of honoring your parents, is to say that as I get better, the family changes, hopefully for the better. And, at least there's one person or maybe more now that can hold that ground for the family. So that's the first one. The second one is starting to see. So if you're going to therapy, I'm guessing you're an adult, you might be a youth, but if you're an adult who's asking this question, Simranjeet, or even a teenager who's like, 17 and above, it's time to now start seeing our parents as people, not just parents, right? We didn't know them before they were our parents. Like, they had a whole history before you were even born. And so, and they have a whole life that actually has nothing to do with you at all, believe it or not. So starting to try to get to know our parents as people, and not just relate to them as these roles that we've grown up with, but to start seeing beyond the roles, which means that sometimes that means that we have to stop acting childish. I know that, I often get from my clients like, oh, they just treat me like a kid. And, part of the work we do around that is where am I acting like a kid, right? Where I'm actually not wanting to take responsibility. I'm wanting them to save the day. I'm, like, where am I projecting some of that on them? So letting your parents be people can actually help with that feeling that you're blaming them, because you see them for more than just the role that they're in your life, right? You're seeing that they have a whole complex personality and a whole set of values and a whole way of being in the world that has nothing to do with you. So that's number two. The third one is seeing if you can shift the idea of blaming your parents. Because see, once we start seeing our parents as people, right? So first we decide, okay, we're doing this for the family, not just for ourselves. Second, we decide that our parents are people too, right? And we're starting to get curious about their stories and their beliefs and their circumstances when you were a child, right? What were their circumstances? If you were in those circumstances, how would you fare, right? So once we can do that, start seeing them as people, then rather than blaming them, we can start to understand them. Okay. So rather than blaming my parents for my childhood, pain or wounds or whatever, I'm starting to understand how, oh, they didn't even actually have capacity to even stop and think about what they were doing. They didn't have and they didn't have the role models of how to raise children without, whatever was happening in your household. But maybe it was violence, maybe it was, shouting, whatever it was in your household. That's what they knew. That's why they did it, because they thought they were helping you. They thought they were, um, growing you up in the right way, or they were in their demons, right? So maybe there was addiction, maybe there was problems in the marriage or the relationship. So they were in their demons and they didn't even notice how that was impacting you, and it was coming out, on you. So rather than blame, starting to move and be willing to move to understanding, right? And trying to see where they were coming from. Now, there are some situations where there's just no, it's just crazy land, and there's absolutely no reason any adult should have, put a child through that thing, whatever that bad thing was. So I'm not talking about those extreme cases, but I'm talking about, the day to day and the difficulties that many of us had with our parents growing up. I'm talking about that, just to see if you can, get into their eyes, get into their shoes, and have a different perspective on it. So, and then maybe over time, possibly, perhaps, understanding may even evolve into compassion, right? It might even evolve into deep empathy for who they were at that time and what they were going through. Maybe not, but at least if we can land on understanding, that would be a win. So those are my thoughts. And this is such an important question. And thank you so much for asking it, Simranjeet. That how do we heal our childhoods without blaming our parents? Well, we can look at our intention, broaden the intention to actually helping the family, starting to see our parents as people and not just parents, and then looking at understanding versus blame. Now, there are times in therapy where some emotion might come up, right? Some negative emotion towards your parents. And in the therapeutic environment, there is room for that. There's room for expression of that, of letting go of that, without actually disrespecting your parents, because you're not even telling them, you're not talking to them, right? You're just kind of letting it out in the moment. And so take those opportunities to do that work with your therapist, right? In session. And this would be something to raise with your therapist, right? To ask your therapist, I don't want to be blaming my parents, but they were part of some of this stuff. So how do we navigate that? And that can lead to a really interesting conversation in your own therapeutic journey. So those are my thoughts for that question. Thank you for asking it. Please feel free to drop me a note if you have a question. Pass this along to others who might benefit, and we will see you next time. Bye.